Have you ever felt like this? No, maybe it was just me and my kids. But what compelled you to watch this video today? Are the tears flowing every time the math book comes out? Or maybe you have the opposite problem. Maybe your child completed an entire year of math curriculum in just a couple of months. Regardless of where you are today, welcome to MathRx. Today I want to help you find the right solution to overcome the math problems you are facing. My name is Deanne, and I am one of a team of homeschool consultants at Rainbow Resource Center. Would you be surprised to learn most questions we answer from both new and veteran homeschool parents are about math curriculum? Questions like, what math curriculum really is the best? Or, I don't think my math program is working. My friend says I should try this one because her kids are doing well with it. Is she right? As we begin, I want to reassure you. My goal is to preserve your current math curriculum. I know you've spent money, maybe a lot of money on it. And whether you have hit a brick wall or just a bump in the road, there are things that may fix the problem. Recognizing the overwhelming stress that accompanies math struggles, the nurse in me came up with an analogy to help take the stress out of the equation. Just for a moment, imagine this scene with me. Squad 51, we have an injured math situation en route to your emergency room. Symptoms include inconsolable tears, anger, and frustration. As you and your child enter the math ER, presenting symptoms will be triaged, which is a medical term that means evaluated for severity. So how does this apply to your math situation? At Rainbow, we are frequently in the triage business. If you call us with a problem you or your child are experiencing about math or any other subject, we will ask you a series of questions that will help diagnose the underlying problem. Our questions will evaluate the painful problem along with the underlying health or strengths and weaknesses of your current curriculum. If the presenting and symptoms include a small amount of math pain, the kind that hurts, but you can still move about the program, then a splint will be used to support the injury. Here are possible signs of an injured math program. The program is working, but you think more progress should be happening. Or the math curriculum worked really great until recently, but now understanding that new concept seems impossible. These are perfect scenarios to apply supportive measures. An example would be additional math practice on a specific skill using workbooks, flashcards, or hands-on tools like the Learning Wrap-Ups, which are a tactile and self-checking way of practicing math facts. There are times the splint of additional practice is not the best option to treat the injury. Sometimes the best support is splint and rest, or in our math example, rest from paper and pencil activities, while splinting with games, dice, manipulatives, or stories that teach math concepts. So which type of splint is best? Here are some things to consider. First, if your child's math curriculum includes an infinite number of problems, or if your child has been doing extra practice and still struggles to grasp math concepts, it may be best to rest and splint with games, manipulatives, or stories. Second, consider your child's learning style. These may or may not be familiar, so let's do a quick overview of learning styles and how you can use them effectively. The visual learner is our child that needs to see it to believe it. Interestingly, some visual learners respond well to colorful illustrations and video resources, and others find them distracting, but will grasp concepts by reading the text rather than hearing the lesson read aloud or in a lecture. Helpful splints for visual learners include videos to teach or practice concepts. You will want to choose one that aligns with your curriculum. Maybe you need to simply focus on mastering math facts through song or story videos. As a teaching parent, you may want to preview the videos to check terminology. Not all math programs will use the same terms, and using different terminology may be confusing for some children. It may also be helpful to draw the math problem as a picture or graph. Yes, this takes more time, but it will be worth it in the long run. Or allow your children to use colored pencils to work the problem. Use different colors for the ones, tens, and hundreds. If your curriculum uses manipulatives, color coordinate the math problem to the manipulative. There are also several resources like Math Mosaics that provide practice through fun coloring activities. Next is our auditory learner. This child likes to talk, even if no one answers. They may also prefer to read their textbook aloud. During family read aloud time, this child will respond orally to the events in the story. These traits are often common for young learners, but if you have an auditory learner, this will continue through the high school years. My daughter is a strong auditory learner. During her college years, she found she needed to read the textbooks out loud to herself to really understand and retain the information. There are several helpful splints to help auditory learners. First, take the time to read or teach through the lessons with your child. If time is limited, choose a curriculum that has supplemental audio instruction. Another resource would be audio CDs or online songs to teach math concepts or facts. Or make up your own jingle. Kids love to create their own tunes. You may also want to consider using literature-based resources that teach through stories. Circumference offers fun, night-based adventures where each book in the series focuses on one concept. A quick note, when the time comes to transition back to your textbooks, it's important to remember that auditory learners thrive on discussing what they are learning. Parents, this may be frustrating because it feels like they're arguing with you. However, talking through the concept, questioning it, trying to explain it, are all ways that auditory learners master information. Our last category of learning styles is one that is frequently grouped together. While they do have similar traits, the kinesthetic and tactile learners are different in how they learn or respond to how the information is presented. Here are a few differences. Kinesthetic learners need to move. They wiggle, they tap, they swing their legs. They just can't sit still. They learn best when they're allowed to do the lessons. Splints that work well for the kinesthetic learner would be active games that involve the whole body, or learning motions which allows them to do as they learn. This can be as simple as bouncing a ball, playing hopscotch, or creating an interpretive dance to practice their concepts. Tactile learners, on the other hand, learn through the sense of touch or fine motor movements rather than whole body movement. They learn best through hands-on activities, or love to complete projects to show what they have learned. Splints that work well for tactile learners would be using manipulatives, even if your curriculum doesn't. Manipulatives that work with a variety of math curriculum include Cuisenaire rods, base 10 blocks, or linking cubes. Games are also a great learning tool for tactile learners. Purchase a pre-made game or create your own using standard dice or a deck of cards. Math War is an easy-to-play game that allows your child to practice their math facts with just a deck of cards. There is also tremendous value in playing popular games like Monopoly, which reinforce math skills casually. If you have a younger child struggling with math, it's helpful to keep in mind that math concepts move from concrete to abstract. What this means is that young children need more visual and tactile instruction until their abstract thinking develops. They may or may not be a true tactile learner, but they need to experience math, to see it, to touch it, to handle it. Before we move back to our triage metaphor, I want to talk briefly about the seemingly endless workbook pages. Let's be honest, writing in a workbook or on paper can be exhausting. If additional workbook practice is the best option for your family, be creative in the implementation. Allow your child to solve the problem on a dry erase board. Using different colors or drawing pictures will often help children make sense of the math problem. But back to our ER analogy. What if you've applied the splint? The injured math program has been supported the past couple of weeks, but the injury remains. In our analogy, when arriving in the ER, you experienced pain, but you were able to move about the math program, so no x-rays were taken. However, the pain continues, and healing has not occurred. The next step would be to take x-rays for a deeper look at the injury, specifically for a break that will require a cast. Just for a moment, imagine you need a knee splint. While wearing the splint, you are still able to bend your knee, but the splint will limit the amount of flexion or movement. However, if the injury is more severe and the doctor determines a cast is necessary, the cast will prevent all movement of the area. Splints and casts serve the same purpose, limited mobility to allow time for healing, but there are a couple notable differences between the two. First, casts are a longer-term fix. Typically, splints will be used for 3 or 4 weeks, and casts will be used for 4 to 12 weeks depending on the severity of the injury. Casts also wrap all the way around the injury, rather than providing support for just the injured area. In math, this may mean looking at the whole situation rather than just focusing on the injured concept. So what does a cast look like? If you think about casting broken bones, casts come in different sizes, shapes, and colors, yet they all serve the same purpose. Set the broken bone and allow it to heal. Or, in a math injury, Different types of casts are available, and each one resets or reteaches the broken concept and promotes healing. It is an alternative or different way of teaching math. Targeted mastery-based teaching programs or supplements may provide the healing that is so desperately needed. Considering a cast for your math emergency, here are some options to consider. First, Child's First Right Brain Math is designed to teach children who see the whole picture rather than bite-sized pieces, and who respond best to color, patterns, and pictures. Or there's Developmental Math, a mastery-based program created for individual pacing that teaches essential concepts without a lot of distracting detail. Each level is dedicated to one topic, beginning with number concepts and symbols, advancing through geometry at the higher levels. Or the Key 2 series, which are sets of short work texts that focus on mastery of topics. Like Developmental Math, they offer no fluff or distractions, just targeted teaching of essential topics, including measurement, fractions, decimals, algebra, and geometry. Finally, the Humongous Books of Problems are fully instructional texts that cover all the major topics and their strands. This series teaches by examples and are filled with side notes and tips to help students grasp the concepts. As a side note, if you have a student who works best with independent pacing and mastery, Developmental Math and the Humongous Books of Problems may be considered complete curricula. Another example of a cast would include literature or reading-based teaching. For example, the Life of Fred books. Life of Fred is considered a complete curriculum. However, it also provides an excellent way to reteach concepts in a low-stress, literature-based format. It is important to give the healing process time. It may take 2 months or longer. I think as parent teachers, it is easy to get frustrated with our children or ourselves, but take a moment and think about a broken arm. How long does it take to heal? Keeping in mind the severity of the injury helps keep the focus on the healing process. At some point, though, you should be able to continue with your math curriculum without the extra support. If you still don't see the program working for your student, well, it may be time for more radical measures, or what may be considered amputation to prevent further damage of math comprehension. Much like amputation is not the first step in treating an injury unless the injury is traumatic and life-threatening, amputation should be considered when all else has failed. While not exhaustive, here are a few indicators that an amputation may be the best solution. Does the program require more teacher-student interaction time than is available? This is a reality check question and not designed to be a guilt-invoking question. Each family situation is different. Does your child need more or less hands-on instruction than your curriculum provides? Is your math program too much work? While most children say math is too hard or takes too long, there are some ways to verify if this is a genuine concern. For example, is your student at the right level? Did he take a placement test prior to starting? This is especially important if you have recently changed curriculum or are new to homeschooling and your child has been in the school system. Is your child taking too long to do math? The reality is that some math programs just take longer. For example, if you are using Saxon Math in the upper elementary years, you will want to plan 45 minutes to 90 minutes every day to finish that lesson. This will be the case from the upper elementary ages through the high school years. Knowing that it is normal to spend an hour and a half on math in the high school years of Saxon offers reassurance that your student is doing fine. This may also help you determine if Saxon Math is a good fit for your family's schedule. The other thing we often hear under the too much work idea is the child or parent think the math program is boring. It is important to remember not all learning styles work well with all curriculum styles. This can be easily remedied through manipulatives or games. On the flip side, this may be the perfect time to help children learn that not everything they do in life is fun. Math may be a great character builder for your child. Another consideration is writing ability. Does your child struggle to write out all the problems? This is an issue faced especially by younger children or those with dysgraphia. The good news is that this is easily fixable. For example, take time to do math problems orally or work out the problems with dice or games. The final consideration that may be helpful in evaluating whether the current math curriculum is right for your child is understanding the philosophy of the program. When you look at the Rainbow Resource Center Math Curriculum Comparison Chart, you will notice we separate programs into 3 approaches: spiral, sequential, and conceptual or topical. Let's look at these definitions and the potential benefits and drawbacks of each approach. The first approach listed, and probably most well known, is spiral. Spiral math programs cover the same topics several years in a row with increasing difficulty each year. Saxon utilizes both a spiral and an incremental approach. Other spiral programs are less incremental. For example, Abeka or Horizons Math from Alpha Omega. There are advantages to the spiral approach. Concepts are reviewed and repeated. There is also research that shows review and repetition help students move their conceptual understanding from their short-term memory to their long-term memory banks. Research also shows that spiral learning builds confidence. As students revisit the topic over the years, familiarity helps them tackle the increasing difficulty of concepts as they progress through the curriculum. The greatest disadvantage is the potential for student boredom. If a child can quickly grasp a concept, they will find the repetition boring and may become frustrated with the slow pace. If you feel the spiral learning approach is best for your student, then be aware of long periods of boredom or frustration with the repetition and seek out ways to move your student faster. Worth mentioning, if using Saxon Math, it is not recommended children complete just some of the text problems, like only the odds. It may take a little more creativity to move quickly, and we would be happy to help you find a path to meet your child's needs. Sequential learning, on the other hand, is when well-defined learning objectives are organized into smaller, sequentially structured units. Sequential programs are often referred to as mastery programs because there is overlap between sequential and mastery. However, not all sequential programs are mastery programs. While it may seem like splitting hairs, and in many ways it is important to keep in mind that sequential programs usually have some form of review or will have optional add-ons with supplemental review. Mastery programs generally have no review or very minimal review. An example of a sequential program with a mastery structure would be developmental math that devotes an entire book to one skill set, for example, subtraction. Other sequential programs, such as MCP Math or the Singapore programs, have the student working for a chapter or unit on a single skill set before going on to the next one. There are advantages to sequential learning. First, students are better able to master a particular concept before progressing to the next concept. It is also believed that when learning happens in sequence and each concept is mastered before moving on to the next, mastering harder problems and concepts happens more easily because there is a strong foundation to build on. The biggest disadvantage is that children don't learn concepts at the same speed and pace. One concept may be mastered in a few days, while another may take weeks to master. Choosing a highly sequential, mastery-focused curriculum may require taking more time to master lessons than the teacher guide allows. The final category of math curriculum is conceptual math. Conceptual problems explain why the algorithm works. The focus is on teaching math by concepts rather than memorizing isolated facts. Advantages of conceptual math instruction is students can connect what they're learning to previously learned concepts. In theory, conceptual understanding will help students develop reasoning and problem-solving skills, which are necessary for logic and critical thinking skills. The greatest disadvantage of conceptual math is that it may take longer, sometimes much longer, to master concepts. I think it's important to note when comparing the different approaches, spiral, sequential, and conceptual, many programs have elements of each approach. All programs have the same goal: mastery of math skills and developing reasoning and critical thinking. One curriculum that successfully integrates sequential learning through conceptual teaching and review is Singapore Math. Singapore Math is an approach rather than a single product or a single publisher. If you would like to learn more about the different Singapore Math programs, be sure to check out our Singapore Math videos. So let's go back to our Math ER analogy. When you arrive in the ER for triage, the nurse will ask, "What led to the injury?" or "What happened to bring you in today?" For our analogy, we are asking, what is the history behind your math curriculum? Why did you choose the math program you did? How long have you been using it? And have you used other programs? Maybe you used this curriculum with an older sibling, but it's not working for this child. Or maybe this is the third program you've tried in a constant search for the better program and unintentionally created gaps. Let's take a look at preventative care. In our analogy, this is when the doctor or nurse will enter the room to discuss what you can do to keep this from happening again. In healthcare, preventative care encompasses teaching and possibly a prescription or recommendation for supplements and medication. As a homeschool parent, you want to understand the different approaches, especially the approach of the programs that appeals to you. This understanding will help you identify the best fit for your family. For example, do you feel your child will need more review and practice? Look at spiral programs. Is your child quickly bored? Does he need to move faster through the concepts? Then look at sequential or conceptual programs. You will also want to consider whether you and your child want teacher-directed or student-independent lessons. In this conversation, also ask yourself, do you want or need a scripted teacher's guide, or are you comfortable explaining the math lessons with some background information on the concepts? Understanding learning styles also helps you choose the best fit for your child. For example, tactile learners may learn best using a hands-on program like Saxon Elementary, Right Start Math, or Math-U-See. But now let's look at the prescriptions. First, give your student the placement test. Placement tests are program-specific. Math programs are not created equal, and each has its own scope and sequence. It is imperative your child take the placement test of the program you plan to use, especially when changing programs or if you're new to homeschooling and your child has been in a school system. While you could look at the placement test and decide where to begin, it's better to have your student take it without your help to get an accurate starting point in that specific program. Second, as your healing begins, remember the importance of time. Be patient and stay positive. Research shows that time and a positive attitude improves the healing process. I hope this workshop has answered the questions you came with today. It's also important to remember there is not a one-size-fits-all math curriculum, and the solution for your specific math injury is unique to your situation. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Whether it is a splint, cast, or amputation, let's find the best treatment plan for your situation. You can contact us by phone, email, or live chat Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. Thank you.